Thank you so much for watching. If this story inspired you or reminded you of a time when you rose above challenges with grace and strength, we'd love to hear from you. Leave a comment below and share your own experience. Your voice matters here. And if you believe in stories that uplift, empower, and prove that it's never too late to reclaim your worth, don't forget to hit the subscribe button and turn on notifications so you never miss an update. We bring you powerful, true-to-life stories every week, tales of justice, redemption, and second chances that resonate with experience and wisdom. Whether you faced corporate betrayal, personal setbacks, or moments where you proved everyone wrong, this is your community. Join us, support each other, and celebrate the victories that come not with noise, but with quiet, undeniable power. Subscribe today and be part of something meaningful. I need you in the boardroom. The message from Connor Grayson flashed across my phone screen with no greeting or explanation. Still, I felt the tightness in my chest immediately. After 19 years at Brightwell Market's flagship location in Dallas, I had received plenty of meeting requests, but something about this one felt different, colder. My name is Marissa Delgado, and at 54, I had become something of a cornerstone at store number 204. I started working nights as a cashier when my youngest son began kindergarten. Over nearly 2 decades, I rose through the ranks to become senior floor operations manager. I'd trained dozens of employees, reworked our floor layout to increase efficiency, and developed a scheduling system that slashed overtime costs by 22%. Our location ranked among the top 5 in the Southwest region for 5 consecutive years. I locked my office and made my way toward the boardroom, passing Ray in appliances, who was walking a customer through refrigerator specs. He gave me a quick nod. Ray had just completed the hands-on product training I designed, and his department's customer reviews had improved significantly. When I reached the boardroom, the door was shut, a rare break from our usual open-door policy. Inside, Connor, arms folded, stared out the window. Jenna, from HR, sat at the table with an unmarked manila folder in front of her. Her expression was professional, distant. "Please have a seat, Marissa," Connor said, still not looking at me. At just 38, he had been our general manager for a little over a year, brought in as part of Brightwell's next-generation leadership plan. I took the chair across from him, folding my hands calmly in my lap. "Is something wrong?" I asked. Connor finally faced me, his tone flat. "After a thorough review of our operational structure, we've concluded that your role no longer aligns with our business direction." Before I could respond, Jenna pushed the folder toward me. "Your salary exceeds what we can justify given current labor strategies. We're terminating your employment effective immediately." My heart skipped, but I stayed composed. "I'm confused." My last performance review was glowing. "The decision is final," Connor replied, his voice robotic. "Your system access has already been disabled. Jenna will walk you through your exit process." The air in the room grew thick. 19 years of commitment, of missed birthdays, canceled vacations, and weekend crisis shifts, dismissed in under 5 minutes. But as I looked at Connor's eyes darting away from mine, fingers drumming against his sleeve, I felt a curious sense of peace. He didn't know. 2 weeks earlier, I'd received a message from Claire Emerson, Brightwell's Vice President of Retail Strategy. "We'd like to discuss your future with the company," she had written. I assumed it had something to do with the efficiency model I developed, one now adopted by 8 regional stores. When I arrived at headquarters in Austin, I was surprised to see both Claire and Samuel Grant, the Chief Operating Officer, waiting for me. "Marissa," Claire had said, "we've been closely following your initiatives in store number 204. The improvements in operations and team retention under your leadership are impressive." Samuel added, "We're launching a pilot division focused on sustainable retail operations. We want you to lead it." So as I sat in that boardroom listening to Connor list corporate reasons for my dismissal, I felt no rage, only quiet satisfaction. I signed Jenna's papers with a smile. "Thank you for the opportunity," I said, rising to leave. Connor looked visibly relieved that I hadn't caused a scene. He had no idea that on Monday, Brightwell would issue an internal bulletin announcing my appointment as Director of Strategic Store Operations, reporting directly to the COO. He thought he was ending my story. He was just setting up the next chapter. "You've built the most dependable team in our Texas division," Claire said, tapping the folder gently. "Your store has the lowest employee turnover in the region." I had never seen myself as doing anything extraordinary. I just believed in doing the right thing, respect your team, fix broken systems, and lead by example. "We're realigning regional leadership," she continued. "And we need someone with hands-on experience and emotional intelligence, someone who knows how to build lasting teams." Samuel leaned forward. "We'd like to offer you the position of Regional Director for Central Texas. You'd be responsible for overseeing 12 stores, including Dallas." He pushed the folder toward me. My breath caught as I opened it. The title, the scope of responsibility, and the salary nearly twice my current pay. My fingers brushed across the page as I processed the shift this represented. I would now supervise all current store managers in the region. Claire added gently, "That includes Connor Grayson." I glanced up, and we shared a brief look, acknowledging, without saying, that Connor's reputation for undermining senior staff hadn't gone unnoticed. Samuel nodded. "We've seen his leadership in action. And we've seen yours. The difference is stark." I thought about my team, how we'd pulled together through late-night audits, holiday traffic, and the staffing nightmares during COVID. I thought about the associates I'd coached who were now leading departments of their own. "When would you need my decision?" I asked. "Take the weekend," Claire replied. "But we're hoping you can begin immediately after." The regional office was located in Austin, though the role would require regular travel throughout the state. That evening, I drove back to Dallas, the offer tucked safely in my bag. There was a quiet pride building in me, not because of the title, but because after nearly 2 decades of putting in the work, someone finally saw it. I called my daughter that night. "I got a new job offer," I said. "About time," she replied, not even waiting for the details. "Say yes, Mom." The following Monday, I accepted. I requested 2 weeks to finish key projects and support my team before transitioning. Claire agreed, but emphasized the need for discretion. "We'll announce the change company-wide next Friday. Until then, business as usual." And that's what I did. I walked the floor, checked inventory logs, reviewed staffing schedules, and mentored newer team leads. I even assisted Connor with preparations for his quarterly update to the executive team, staying late to double-check his financials and forecasts. In those 2 weeks, I could feel his tension building. Twice, I caught him reviewing vendor correspondence I'd left on my desk. Another time, he pulled Linda from payroll aside to ask questions about overtime reports I had signed off on. "He's digging," Linda warned me quietly. "Trying to find something to pin on you." I wasn't shocked. One by one, he'd forced out the veterans who had helped build this store. Tony, who managed warehouse ops for 23 years, was told his role was being eliminated due to automation. Renee from customer engagement was saddled with unattainable benchmarks until she quietly handed in her resignation. I knew exactly what Connor was trying to do. But what he didn't know, what he couldn't possibly know, was that next Friday, his direct supervisor would be me. After nearly 2 decades with the company, I was one of the few remaining from Brightwell's earlier years. My pay, the result of years of steady promotions and cost of living bumps, had likely made me a convenient target for a manager trying to prove he could trim the budget and impress the higher-ups. What Connor didn't grasp was that it wasn't my metrics under scrutiny, it was his. On Wednesday, I received a sleek envelope embossed with the Brightwell logo. Inside was my formal contract, complete benefits package, and a welcome message signed by the senior leadership team. My start date was set for Monday. That afternoon, I noticed Connor locked in an unusually long meeting with Jenna from Human Resources. When they exited, both looked tense, he more irritated, she more resigned. By Thursday morning, The boardroom was blocked off for a staffing review at 2 p.m. right when Connor sent a text requesting my presence. It didn't take a genius to see where it was heading. As I boxed up my belongings after the so-called termination discussion, I didn't feel shame. Oddly, I felt release. I'd missed holidays, skipped family milestones, and worked double shifts through emergencies because I cared. And while the abruptness of my dismissal still stung, I understood that this wasn't the end of my chapter at Brightwell, it was just a page turn. I handed over my badge and store keys to Jenna. Her tone remained neutral, but her hands trembled slightly. "Would you like to make a statement for your file?" she asked. I considered it, sharing the news about the executive-level position, the corporate housing I'd secured in Austin, and the fact that Connor would soon be reporting to me. But instead, I gave a calm smile. "No," I said gently. "I think everything will make sense soon enough." I left store number 204 not as a cast-off employee, but as the incoming regional director of central operations. Connor simply hadn't figured that out yet. The next morning, I woke with a peace I hadn't felt in years. For the first time in forever, I didn't have to rush to the store to organize a chaotic delivery or fill in for a no-show. I poured a second cup of coffee, sat on the porch, and watched the Dallas skyline fade into the soft morning haze. My phone buzzed with messages from former colleagues. "This is outrageous," wrote Ray from Appliances. "The whole place ran because of you." "Connor just messed up big," texted Lori from Checkout Services. "We're in shock. It's not going to run the same." I responded with quiet thanks, offering no hints about the storm on its way. The official announcement from HQ would go out later that day. I wanted to respect their timeline. At noon, my daughter Sophia called. "Mom, I still can't believe they fired you." "After everything? That's so unfair." "It's all right, sweetie," I told her. "Sometimes life redirects you towards something better." "I just hope Connor gets what's coming," she said, her voice sharp. "Remember when he denied your vacation for my college graduation? Or how he claimed credit for your system at that district meeting?" I hadn't forgotten. But those wrongs felt small now, knowing what was about to unfold. "Let's focus on the good," I said. "What do you say we celebrate this weekend?" "I've got a new role starting Monday." Her voice brightened. "That's amazing." "Where?" "Still with Brightwell," I smiled. "But in a more elevated capacity." Before I could continue, my screen flashed with an incoming call from Claire Emerson. "I'll tell you everything later," I promised Sophia as I switched lines. "Claire," I said as I answered. "Good afternoon." "Marissa," Claire said, her tone warm but businesslike. "The internal announcement just went live. I thought you should know, it's already making waves at store number 204. A jolt of adrenaline surged through me. I'm not surprised. Connor Grayson called our office within minutes. He insisted there had been some error. I could just imagine the moment his self-assured confidence cracked into panic. When our assistant confirmed your new role, let's just say, he didn't take it gracefully. The image of him standing there stunned, humiliated, gave me a quiet sense of satisfaction. Less than 48 hours after unceremoniously firing me, he now had to prepare for my arrival as his supervisor. "Do you need me to do anything?" I asked. "No," Claire replied. "We've instructed him to compile a full report on store operations for your review Monday morning. The rest of the regional managers are already setting up meet-and-greet calls with you next week." After we hung up, I opened my personal inbox. Sure enough, at the top was a message from Corporate Communications, Leadership Update, Marissa Delgado named Regional Director, Central Texas. I clicked it open. Brightwell Market is proud to announce the promotion of Marissa Delgado to Regional Director for Central Texas, effective this coming Monday. With 19 years of hands-on leadership and operational excellence at our Dallas flagship, Marissa brings experience, dedication, and a collaborative vision to the role. She will oversee 12 stores across the region, supporting management teams and advancing strategic initiatives. A wave of messages flooded my phone. Dozens of former colleagues were reaching out, many with congratulations, others with updates from the store I had just left. Lori wrote. Connors locked himself in the back office. HR is pacing outside, looking panicked. Another simply read, finally. I smiled and set my phone down. It was time to start packing. I had a corporate apartment in Austin to prepare and a new chapter to dress for. After years of working the sales floor, my wardrobe consisted mostly of khakis, polos, and steel-toe shoes. I'd never had cause to own a tailored blazer. On Saturday morning, I drove to Austin. The apartment, small but sleek, was in a high-rise with a clear view of Lady Bird Lake. I spent most of the day picking up essentials: cookware, a coffee maker, office supplies, and, finally, professional clothing. At a boutique in the South Congress District, I was greeted by a chic consultant named Clarice. "Regional Director," she asked, raising an eyebrow with a smile. "That calls for poise and presence." She guided me through blazers, structured dresses, and versatile separates in rich hues: navy, forest green, deep plum. As I stood in front of a mirror wearing a tailored charcoal jacket, Clarice adjusted the cuffs and gave an approving nod. "This one," she said. "It says leadership." I gazed at the reflection, a woman standing tall, eyes steady, no trace of hesitation. For nearly 20 years, my look had been about utility: tied-back hair, light makeup that could survive long hours, and sturdy shoes for constant motion. Now I was stepping into a role where I would be the one giving direction instead of following it. I saw someone ready not just to lead, but to be seen. "I'll take this one," I said, "and also the navy and slate options." By the time the sun dipped behind the Austin skyline, both my new apartment and my mindset felt transformed. Sitting at the kitchen counter, I flipped through the performance analytics Claire had sent me earlier that day. Store number 204, my former post, remained profitable, but the data revealed troubling patterns. Turnover rates had surged. Customer satisfaction scores had dropped below the regional average. Inventory discrepancies were ticking upward after years of decline. The signs were unmistakable. This was Connor's brand of management: pressure without direction, demands without tools, decisions without context. My phone buzzed, an unfamiliar number from Dallas. "Marissa Delgado," I answered. "Marissa, this is Jenna Lewis from HR at store 204, came the voice on the line, a brittle professionalism hiding obvious discomfort. "Hello, Jenna," I said evenly. "How can I help?" "I just wanted to say, I had no idea about your promotion," she said quickly. "None of us did. If I had known." Her voice trailed off, the implication hanging in the silence. If she'd known I was about to be her boss, she might have handled things differently. But I didn't need an apology. I understood how this worked. "I appreciate the call," I said. "Let's focus on what comes next. I'm looking forward to working together." "Yes, of course," she said, grateful for the lifeline. "Connors called a leadership huddle for Sunday to prep for your arrival. He's trying to get ahead of things." I could imagine it now, Connor pacing, rewriting history, instructing the department heads to clean up reports and spin talking points. But I didn't want a performance. I wanted facts. "No need to over-prepare," I told her. "No one knows store 204 better than I do. My job isn't to play gotcha, it's to help every location thrive." Not 10 minutes later, another message came in, this time from an unknown sender. "Connor Grayson. Can we speak before Monday? I'd like to align on expectations and discuss the transition." I stared at the screen, debating. Part of me wanted to let him sweat until Monday. But that wouldn't serve the larger goal. Leadership required steadiness, not pettiness. I typed back, "Good evening, Connor. I've scheduled individual meetings with each general manager next week. Yours is Monday at 9 a.m., as noted in the calendar invite. Please bring performance summaries, staffing metrics, and loss prevention data. I look forward to our discussion." Short, direct, no gloating, just business. I silenced my phone and returned to the stack of reports. There was satisfaction in knowing that my actions, not my anger, would speak the loudest. My success would be measured not just by metrics, but by rebuilding a culture that had slowly eroded under careless leadership. Sunday evening, my phone rang again. This time, it was Claire. "How are you feeling about tomorrow?" she asked. "Ready," I replied. "I've reviewed the numbers and mapped out priority issues at each site." "That's why we chose you," she said. "But what about store 204? Are you ready to walk in there and face Connor?" I paused, letting the question settle. This wasn't about revenge anymore. "I'm not walking in to settle scores," I said. "I'm walking in to lead." All weekend, messages kept rolling in quiet updates from old coworkers still at the store. Connor had held back-to-back team meetings, ordered a floor-to-ceiling deep clean, and was reportedly scrambling to rewrite documentation tied to my dismissal. It didn't surprise me. "I'm going in focused," I told Claire. "This isn't personal. He made decisions that he thought benefited the business. Now it's my turn to do the same, for the company and for the people who keep it running." Claire chuckled. "That's a textbook answer. But I imagine it feels good." A slight grin tugged at my mouth. Let's just say, the irony isn't lost on me. After the call ended, I laid out my wardrobe for the next day: a plum blazer, ivory blouse, crisp black trousers, and polished heels that gave me just enough extra height to feel commanding. It wasn't just clothing, it was a mindset. A uniform for the kind of leadership I intended to bring. That evening, my daughter Sophia texted, "You've got this, Mom. Show them who you are." I slept deeply, no tossing, no rehearsing. For the first time in years, I felt at peace with the path ahead. By dawn, a light mist hovered over the Austin skyline. I got dressed with care, applying a hint of makeup and styling my hair into a neat, shoulder-length bob, simple but refined. The drive to Dallas took longer than I'd hoped, thanks to commuter traffic, but I still pulled into the lot at 8:50 a.m., exactly 10 minutes before my scheduled check-in. Rather than parking in my old reserve space, I opted for a visitor slot. New role, new approach. As I stepped out with my leather portfolio in hand, I noticed faces at the windows, coworkers watching, whispering, or openly staring. Word had clearly traveled. Ray from Appliances stood by the entrance, eyebrows lifting as he caught sight of me. "Whoa, Ms. Delgado, you look powerful." "Thank you, Ray," I said, keeping my tone light. "How's morale?" He gave a sheepish grin. "Tense. Connor's been holed up in the meeting room since 7:30. Jenna's hitting the break room donuts like it's a stress marathon." I nodded, remaining composed even as a flicker of amusement passed through me. "I'll head straight in." Walking through the store felt surreal. Not because the space had changed, it hadn't, but because my relationship to it had. For 19 years, this had been my universe. Now it was one part of a much larger map. I passed familiar faces, some gave respectful nods, a few mouthed silent congratulations. I returned each gesture with a calm smile. When I reached the conference room, I paused for a breath. Inside, I could see Connor sitting alone, surrounded by thick folders and laptop cables, glancing anxiously at the clock. I knocked once, then opened the door with confidence. "Good morning, Connor," I said clearly, my voice firm but professional. He stood up so fast his chair wobbled. His face went pale as he processed the shift. No longer a subordinate in uniform, I now stood across from him, poised in business attire with the authority to lead. "Marissa," he stammered, trying to regain footing. I wasn't expecting you quite yet." I smiled just enough. "I'm exactly on time." "That's Regional Director Delgado," I said calmly, extending my hand. "Shall we begin?" Connor attempted to seize control of the meeting from the start. He launched into a presentation filled with graphs and bullet points, touting the store's recent performance gains. He spoke of improved inventory accuracy, streamlined scheduling, and operational enhancements, all of which had originated under my leadership. "As you can see," he said, clicking to another slide, "we've reduced inventory shrinkage by over 18% with our updated tracking methods." I let him continue, silently noting the absence of any mention of my involvement in those systems. His words were polished, but the truth sat just beneath the surface. When he finished, I set down my pen and pulled a single printed sheet from my folder. "Thank you for the overview," I said, keeping my tone even. "Now, I'd like to address the decision to terminate a senior operations manager with nearly 2 decades of tenure, executed without proper channels or consultation with regional leadership." Connor's posture stiffened, his voice faltering. "I can explain." "I'm sure you can," I replied, not unkindly. "But first, let's look at these metrics." I slid the report across the table. It clearly showed the spike in resignations and turnover since he took command, especially among veteran staff. "We've been restructuring," he muttered. "Reorganizations don't usually involve losing your most experienced personnel weeks before the busiest season." I placed a second document beside the first. Customer feedback had declined sharply, ratings down 15 points in just over a year. Connor glanced toward the door, his composure cracking. "Let me be direct," I said. "Brightwell Market believes in leadership that empowers teams and cultivates loyalty, not one that eliminates threats to personal control. You now have 2 options." He looked up slowly, bracing himself. "You may resign voluntarily today with full severance," I said. "Or you can agree to a structured improvement plan, which will include weekly progress reviews under my oversight and clearly defined objectives." The irony hung between us. I was giving him the exact ultimatum so many dedicated employees had faced under his leadership. He swallowed hard. "I'd like to try the development plan." I nodded once. "Then let's get to work. We'll begin with how you plan to re-engage the very team you've alienated." Over the next month, I rotated between the 12 Texas stores in my region, but I remained closely involved with the one in Dallas, formerly mine. Connor, now accountable to a new standard, found it difficult to adjust to a culture that prized transparency and shared responsibility. During our weekly reviews, I addressed every issue openly. "Your staff doesn't trust you," I told him during one session. "Trust is built on follow-through, openness, and a willingness to admit mistakes, not on directives shouted from behind a desk." He nodded, not meeting my gaze. "I understand. Do you?" Because understanding means acknowledging the value each person brings, regardless of their role or title. We began rebuilding. I brought back Tony to lead warehouse logistics, restoring 23 years of expertise. Renee rejoined as a customer engagement trainer, her rapport with customers still unmatched. I introduced an anonymous reporting system to encourage honest input without fear of backlash. Throughout all of it, I stayed composed. I never brought up the day Connor let me go. I didn't need to. My leadership spoke for itself. I never once mentioned Connor's decision to terminate me, nor did I allow personal feelings to cloud any business judgment. My focus remained on moving the store and the region forward. By the 6th week, he scheduled a one-on-one meeting. "I've decided to resign," he said quietly, sliding a sealed envelope across my desk. "Another company's offered me a new opportunity." I accepted it without comment or ceremony. "I wish you well in the next chapter." His eyebrows lifted slightly. "That's all. Were you expecting fireworks?" I asked with a calm smile. He looked down, the flush creeping up his collar. "No, I appreciate the chance to grow, even if I didn't rise to meet it." "Growth isn't always immediate, Connor," I said. "But reflection is a powerful teacher. Hopefully, this experience shapes how you lead in the future." He nodded, shoulders slightly sagged, and walked out not defeated, but changed. The following morning, I recommended Ray, from appliances, for the interim general manager role. His calm presence, deep knowledge, and natural empathy made him the right person to guide store number 204 into its next phase. "Are you sure I'm ready?" he asked hesitantly. "I've been observing you for years," I replied. "You don't just manage, you lead. You listen. You support your team without compromising results. That's exactly the culture this store needs." 2 months into my appointment as regional director, improvements were evident across all 12 Central Texas locations, but none more striking than in Dallas. Morale had climbed. Feedback from customers turned sharply positive. The store had rediscovered its heartbeat. I never needed Connor to admit fault. The data spoke louder than apologies ever could. As I sat in my Austin office, gazing out over Lady Bird Lake, I reflected on the road that led me here, nearly 2 decades of dedication, one abrupt dismissal, and a new role where I could make sure others weren't cast aside so carelessly. The real victory wasn't in returning to outrank the person who let me go. It was building a workplace where experience was honored, potential was cultivated, and leadership meant accountability, not control. That was the justice that mattered.